Welcome to AP Biology. This video is on extracellular components and connections between cells. So now we're talking about all the materials that are found outside of a cell that contribute to the properties of a tissue. These extracellular structures include cell walls. They include the extracellular matrix of animal cells, and they include intercellular junctions. These are the things found outside of the plasma membrane. Many different types of cells have cell wall. The cell wall is the major structural component of a plant cell. The cell wall of a plant cell is made up mostly of cellulose fibers. Cell walls are also found in prokaryotic bacteria. We learned that they are made up of a material called peptidoglycan. Cell walls can also be found in fungi and found in some protists as well. If we look at the structure of a plant cell wall, it is made up of multiple layers. We have a thin, flexible primary cell wall, which you see right here. It's this piece right here. In between the primary cell wall and the plasma membrane would be right here, is this thick secondary cell wall. That primary and secondary cell wall is going to be what really gives a plant cell, and ultimately a plant as a whole, its structural integrity. The material in between plant cell walls, in between plant cells, is called middle lamella, and you see that right here. Now, since plant cells have these rigid cell walls, it's often difficult for plant cells to communicate with each other, to send stuff back and forth. So in the cell walls are these channels that you see right here called plasmodesmata. And that allows materials to be exchanged between plant cells and for communication to take place between plant cells. Animal cells do not have cell walls. Instead, they have an extracellular matrix, a series of glycoproteins that exist outside of cells, in between cells, and they give a tissue a lot of its properties. There are three major types of glycoproteins. You have collagen, proteoglycans, and fibronectin. The most important of those three being collagen. We also find proteins embedded in the cell membrane called integrins, and we're going to see what they do in a second. There are many functions of the extracellular matrix. It's going to support, right? It's going to give a tissue its structural integrity, like we just said. It's also going to function in adhesion. It's going to stick together the cells of a tissue. It's also going to function in movement and regulation. Here we see a picture of the extracellular matrix. Here you see the plasma membrane. Here you see the cortex on the inside. And here you see the integrins, these proteins embedded in the cell membrane. This thick structural fiber that we see here in the extracellular matrix is collagen. Collagen is the major structural protein in your body. It's the most abundant protein in your body. It's what's going to give a tissue its strength. You can see that the collagen is actually attached to the cell membrane using the fibronectin. So that's really the only function of the fibronectin. It connects the collagen to the integrin. You can see that the integrin is actually also attached to the cortex, made up of actin microfilaments inside the cell. So in a lot of ways, the inside of the cell is connected to the outside of the cell. Also within the extracellular matrix, we see proteoglycans, these green guys here, and I think of them as a glue that's really going to perform the adhesion here, sticking all the cells of a tissue together. We also see cell junctions. Cell junctions are going to physically connect cells together. They are going to adhere cells. They're going to allow cells to interact with one another, and they're going to allow cells to communicate with one another. There are several different types of intercellular junctions. We saw one before, the plasmodesmata, which are the channels that allow plant cells to communicate with one another and send materials back and forth with one another. With animal cells, we're going to see three different types of junctions. The first junction that you see here on the top is a tight junction. They are like tiny spot welds, and they hold cells together very tightly. They stop things from being able to leak in between cells. Tight junctions are found connecting the cells in your stomach together, and they're going to prevent things like stomach acid from being able to leak out of the stomach. Here we see the desmosome, also called an anchoring junction, which is the strongest junction. They're going to be found in between cells like muscle cells and stop them from being ripped apart during muscle contraction. Finally, here we see gap junctions, which are kind of similar to plasmodesmata in that they are tubes that allow materials to be transferred back and forth very easily between cells. They're going to function a lot in cell communication, and we'll see them in heart cells, and it's going to allow heart cells to functionally be continuous, to allow many cells to function as one. This concludes our video.